Hello friends, today we will discuss about resource hierarchy in GCP. We will discuss various questions and answers in this topic. Also, in some cases, we will discuss about specific points in detail. We will discuss about what is resource hierarchy, organization, folder, project, billing account, IAM, shared VPC, resource level, GCP resource naming convention, organization policy, project level policy, policy as code, service account in GCP, conflicting permissions, shared VPC, cloud identity and access management, cloud resource manager, etc. So let's get started. What is the resource hierarchy in GCP? A resource hierarchy in GCP is a way to organize and manage resources within your Google Cloud environment. It provides a hierarchical structure that helps you control access, policies, and billing across your project and resources. So, it is a way to organize and manage resources, and it helps to control access, policies, and billing. So, let's elaborate this resource hierarchy in GCP. Resource hierarchy in GCP is a hierarchical structure that helps organize to manage and organize the cloud resources. Basically, it is a way to group and manage the resources. When we say group resources, so there will be one structure, right? Hierarchy. So one above the another. Here, the top node is organization, the top level entity in resource entity, and it represents entire organization, and it is used to group all resources, and it contains the folders and billing accounts. Or so folders and billing accounts are inside this organization. Now, uh, so as I said, old organization is the top node. So folder is the next node, intermediate level entity between organization and project. The top node is organization. Next to that is folder. Next to that is project. It is used for logical grouping of projects, helpful for managing access control policy and resources within a specific department, team, or purpose. So, what it tells is these things: access control policy and resources are managed with the help of folder. Since this is a logical group, if our logic demands, in that case, we can have folder under folder also. This is just for convenience of arranging things. So, as we were discussing, project is under organization. So, quite obviously, project will come in the next node. A logical container for the GCP resources. Project is a logical container of GCP resources. What are GCP resources? Google Cloud Platform resources. We will see what are the resources. Belongs to specific folder within the hierarchy. Obviously, used to isolate resource, manage permission, and track cost. So all these are grouping resources as multiple level. Everyone helps to isolate the resources, manage their permission, and that is the sole purpose of this, right? Project contain resources like virtual machine, storage, database, and services. So we were discussing resources. These are those resources we were talking about. Billing account associated with an organization used to pay for the resources and services used by the project within that organization, allows for centralized billing and cost tracking. So billing account is tagged to that organization. It is associated with an organization. Now, all the billing for used to pay the resources and services used by the project. So there are multiple projects. They're using resources and services, and there will be a billing charge for those resources, usage of those resources. So that is charged here. Allows centralized billing and cost tracking. So why we are saying centralized? Because all the resources are having incurring some bill, right? Now that bill is coming into one account, and in that account, all those are added up, and it helps to track the bill of all the resources used by the organization. It tracks all the cost incurred in that organization by various resources. IAM, identity and access management. IAM controls access to GCP's resources. This is the sole purpose of the identity and access management, managing the proper access and identity. Permissions are granted to user groups and service accounts at the organization folder and project level. So permission is given in this level, organization level, folder level, and project level. Role, both predefined and custom defined, and what action user can perform on the resources. So there are predefined roles, there are custom roles. So these roles tells what are the actions users can perform on those resources. Shared VPC. What is VPC? Virtual Private Cloud. Allows multiple projects to share a common VPC network. One VPC is used by multiple projects. Simplifies network management and connectivity between resources and different projects. Useful for enforcing consistent network policies. Resource labels. Key value pairs that can be assigned to resources are called resource labels. Used for organizing and categorizing resources within projects and folders. So this is the purpose of the resource labels. That is why it is labels, right? Used for organizing and categorizing. Helpful for cost allocation and resource management. So it helps to organize and categorizes resources. Why? uh, because we can do the cost allocation and hence manage the resource effectively. So what are the benefits? Why we are using this GCP resource hierarchy? It will help to control the access. It will help to manage the cost, organize the resource, security and compliance. So basically, we are able to manage and group the resources, right? So quite obviously, it's implied that it will help in controlling access, managing cost, managing resources, and implementing security compliances, managing network effectively. Next question is, what is the top level entity in GCP resource hierarchy? So just now we have read that, right? That top level entity in a GCP resource hierarchy is organization here. What is a project in GCP? Project is a logical container of resources, and projects are organized under organization. This is also we have read. The resource hierarchy. Okay. Projects are organized under a organization in the resource hierarchy and contain various GCP resources like VM, storage bucket, and databases. How can you create a new project in GCP? You can create a new project in GCP by navigating to the IAM admin section and selecting create project. This is quite implied. So when to create a new project, create project. What are folders in GCP's resource hierarchy and why they are useful? So folder is between organization and project and uses grouping projects. And since they are able to group project, we are discussing it multiple times. So whenever something is able to group, it helps in easier management of access control, resource organization, etc. Next, how you move a project between folders in GCP. We can do it with the help of Google Cloud Console, so, or by using Cloud Resource Manager API. So either we can do through API or by UI, that is Google Cloud Console. What is the purpose of billing account in GCP's resource hierarchy? So billing account, as its name suggests, used to pay for the resources. How does GCP handle access control in the resource hierarchy? Already told. IAM is for identity access and management. So this is there for access control. You can grant permission in multiple level. What are resource labels in GCP? Why are they important? Just now we have read. Key value pairs assign resources and that can be assigned to resources used for organizing and categorizing resources. Can you nest folders within other folders in GCP's resource hierarchy? Yes, just now we have read folder can be there within folder, but there is a limit of depth. What is the key benefit of using folders in GCP resource hierarchy? Allows to group project together logically. How does GCP resource hierarchy affect resource naming convention? Hierarchy impacts resource naming because resource name must be unique within their parent's resource. For example, project or folder. It's essential for plan naming conventions accordingly to avoid conflicts. So we will have little bit deep dive in the resource naming convention. Let's discuss a bit about resource naming convention. Resource naming convention in Google Cloud Platform are a set of guidelines and best practices. So it is guideline and best practices for naming various cloud resources that you create within GCP. Following consistent naming convention is essential for maintaining an organized and manageable environment as it helps to improve resource identification, management, and maintenance. There are some key consideration. What are those key consideration? It should be descriptive and meaningful. Name should clearly describe the purpose. Avoid generic or cryptic name. Those two are quite obvious conditions. Use lowercase letters. GCP resource names are case insensitive, but conventionally use lowercase letters. Avoid using uppercase letters, spaces, or special characters in resource name. That is the convention they're following. Use hyphens as word separator. Use hyphen to separate words within the resource name rather than underscore or other characters. For example, my instance instead of my instance or my instance. So we use this hyphen. Start with a letter. Name should start with a lowercase letter. Avoid starting with number or special character. Avoid reserved words. So we have to avoid using reserved words that have a specific meaning. So let's discuss a bit about reserved word because we came across this word reserved word. So let's understand what is. Google Cloud Platform has some reserved words and terms that you should avoid using in resource name. So there are some words and terms that we should not use as a resource name because it has specific meaning within GCP or might lead to naming conflicts. Okay, so let's directly see the examples. Reserved project IDs. Project IDs may be globally unique within GCP. Avoid using common terms like default, Google, GCP, compute, storage, and other GCP specific keywords. So we cannot use the name as Google or as GCP or as compute because these are specific keywords. Organization name. The name of organization entity within GCP cannot be changed after creation. Choose a name for your organization carefully, considering the future needs. So this cannot be changed. So we have to select it cautiously. Billing account names. So billing account names should be chosen carefully, accurately to identify associated billing entity. Service account email prefix. When you create a service account, GCP automatically generates an email address for it. Avoid using reserved terms like compute, storage, and other GCP service names prefixes for service account emails. Resource type name. Avoid using resource type name like compute, storage, BigQuery as a part of your resource name. Resource type name we should not use. We should not use service names. Be cautious when using GCP service name, compute, storage in resource names to avoid ambiguity. Region and zone names. Common dictionary words, server, database. These are two generic words. Avoid that. Project names and labels. Avoid using reserved or common terms such as project name or labels as they might impact readability and organization. Service specific keyword. Different GCP service may have keywords or reservoir that are best avoided when naming resources within those services. Abbreviation or acronym. Be cautious with the abbreviation and acronym. They may be ambiguous. Language specific character. While GCP supports Unicode characters in resource name, it is best to use standard Latin letters and numbers to ensure compatibility and avoid issues. Okay, so come back to the topic we were discussing, resource naming convention, right? So in the resource naming convention, we came to fifth point as avoid reserved words, and we were discussing about the reserved words. Now, next point, point number 6: be concise and consistent. Keep resource name concise while still conveying their purpose. Use consistent names. Include v- environmental include environment or project information. Include environment specific prefixes or project identifiers to differentiate resource in various environment. Like if you start the name with a dev or staging or prod, it gives an idea very quickly what is the environment it is used for, right? This is especially useful in multi-environment deployment. So if you are having production, dev, then it can differentiate. Use abbreviation sparingly. We need to avoid abbreviation because that might confuse. Versioning resources. While versioning resources, use clear and consistent naming pattern to indicate version V1, V2, V3. Include version information in the resource name if necessary. Resource type identification. For resource name, if you use certain indication, for example, VM for virtual machine, BKT for bucket, then it helps for you to understand. Like for example, virtual names are there are few examples here for virtual machine. My web server instance, cloud storage bucket, my data backups. So it is talking about data, right? It is talking about server. It is talking about PubSub topic, processing topic, BigQuery dataset, analytics reporting. It is also essential to document your convention and share them with your team. It is very important because you need to remember them. Everybody needs to know them, and in future, if somebody new joins, he should also be able to understand. What is the difference between organization policy and project level policy in GCP? Organization policy are applied at the organization level and can affect all projects and resources within the organization level. Project level policies impact only project. This seems to be quite obvious. Projects is under organization, and if it is implemented in an organization, so it impacts organization and below. Can you change the organization of a GCP billing account? No. Billing accounts are associated with organization, cannot be moved within organization. Can you enforce can you enforce resource hierarchy policies in GCP? Resource hierarchy policies can be enforced using Google Cloud's policy as code. So it can be enforced using Google Cloud's policy as code (PSC) framework, which allows you to define and policies programmatically. So yes, it can be done. Now we would like to know what is policy as code. Policy as code in Google platform is an approach to manage and enforce cloud resources policies and configuration like cloud and automation. So PSC allows organization to define version and apply policies consistently across GCP environment. What is the concept? Infrastructure as code. PSC often leverages infrastructure as code principle. Infrastructure as code principle means you can define infrastructure through code, where cloud resources and configuration are defined in code using declarative or imperative languages. Tools like Terraform, Deployment Manager, or Google Clouds or Google's Deployment Manager templates are commonly used for this purpose. So PSC leverages ISC, right? Infrastructure as code. You can change and modify infrastructure using code. And what are the tools used for that? Terraform, Deployment Manager, Google Deployment Manager template. Okay. So using this, you can use policy as code. So you can define policy with the help of code. Policy definition. Policies are defined as code specifying what is allowed or what is not allowed. Policies can cover access control, security, resource naming convention, and some more. Version control. PSC policies are stored in version control systems. Obviously, because these are written in a code, so it also needs version control, and it is stored in version control system because it will have multiple change, and we need to check, track the changes, manage version, and collaborate with other team members. Continuous integration and continuous deployment, CI/CD. So PSC can be integrated into CI/CD pipeline, and we can do automated testing and enforcement of policies also, just like normal code. Advantages of policy as code. What are the advantages? Consistency. PSC ensures policies are consistently applied across all resources. Visibility. Code based policies are more transparent, making it easier to understand, review, and audit. Enforcement. Automated check can prevent and remediate policy violation. Documentation. Policies are self documented within code, making it easier to understand. Change management. It has version control, so easier to do the change management. Example of policy as a code in GCP. IAM policies define and enforce IAM policies as code to manage who has access to GCP resources. So IAM policies are also maintained as PSC. Resource naming convention, network security, cost management, all these things are managed using PSC. Tools for policy as code in GCP. So we were talking about tools few minutes ago, right? So what are the tools that is used? Terraform, Google Cloud Deployment Manager, Force Security, Cloud Security Command Center, and custom scripts. What is the role for a service account in GCP's resource hierarchy? So now we'll discuss about service account. Service accounts are used for providing authentication to application, which are running on virtual machine or services. They can be associated with specific projects used for fine-grained access control. Are there any predefined roles in GCP's IAM that are specific to resource hierarchy management? Yes. GCP provides predefined roles such as organization admin, folder admin, project creator. Those are useful for managing resource hierarchy permission. What happens if user or group has conflicting permission in GCP resource hierarchy? When permissions conflict, the most permissive settings takes precedence. In other words, if one rule grants the access, another rule denies it, access will be granted. Can you move a project to a different organization in GCP resource hierarchy? Moving a project is not supported in GCP. Projects are bound to the organization where they are created. How does GCP resource hierarchy impact organizations' network structure? Resource hierarchy can influence network design by allowing shared VPCs to span multiple folders or projects. So there are shared VPCs which are spanning multiple projects or folders, enabling you to connect resources across hierarchy. So there is one hierarchy having some resources, and there is another hierarchy using the same resources. So it how this is possible because there is VPC, because there is shared VPC. What are the benefits of using shared VPCs in resource hierarchy? Shared VPCs reduce need to duplicate network configuration across projects, making it easier to manage network resources. What is the primary purpose of cloud identity and access management for an organization node in GCP resource hierarchy? IAM policy at the organization level defines who has the access to resources within the organization. It is fundamental part of managing access control of the hierarchy. How can you set up billing for individual folders? So billing for individual folders. Billing is tied to projects. To track cost of folder level, you can use labels to tag the resources and view the cost associated with the label. So that's how we can understand what is the use of label. Label actually it is associated with the resources. Now in the bill, that label will come, and you can use the information of the label to track the usage of the resource. Can an organization have multiple billing accounts in GCP? Yes. Multiple billing accounts in GCP is possible for an organization. This allows more flexible cost tracking and separation of cost between different business using the projects. What is the relationship between resource level and billings in GCP? Resource labels are not directly tied to the billing, but used to categorize the resources for cost allocation and reporting purpose. How can you set up custom roles for specific resources within project in GCP's resource hierarchy? Custom roles can be defined at the project level and then assigned to specific user service accounts or group within project to provide fine-grained access control. What is the difference between owner and editor roles? Owner has the full control over the resource, including permission management, while editor can modify and interact with the resource and cannot change permission. So editor cannot change permission. Owner has the permission management access. What happens when you delete a folder in GCP resources hierarchy? So you when you delete a folder in GCP's resource hierarchy, what is going to happen? If you delete a folder, it deletes all the projects and resources containing within it. How can you delegate administrative responsibilities within a GCP resource hierarchy? By assigning appropriate IAM roles to the users or the groups at various levels. What is the primary role of Cloud Resource Manager API? Cloud Resource Manager API allows you to programmatically manage and interact with GCP resource. It will also enable you to create and modify project folder and organization. What is the relationship between billing account and a project in GCP? Billing account is linked to one or more project. It is used to track and pay for the resources. With this, we come to the end of this discussion. Please like and share the video and stay in touch with me by subscribing the channel and hitting the bell icon.